we're going to stick with Georgia, right?
Oh, yeah.
They travel to Oxford, Mississippi this upcoming weekend to face off against Ole Miss. Right now, they're a 2.5-point favorite, but if you look at ESPN's FPI, take that how you will, their metric, that's not the most renowned thing in the sports world. However, Ole Miss has a 53.9% chance to win this game. So obviously, a lot of people, or the person who wrote this algorithm, has faith in Ole Miss, and I think some other people might agree with the performance obviously Georgia had rolling into the biggest away game remaining on their schedule.
I mean, I don't know. If you go based off of the two games that these two teams have most recently played, then yeah, I would give the edge to Ole Miss. But we're going full body of work. I
That's
mean,
people will have recency bias
yeah,
for sure, but looking at Georgia, what they did going into Texas, I mean, I feel like that's hard to ignore.
yep,
Ole Miss, obviously, they're good at home, but they have the big blemish of that Kentucky game that they lost at home. So,
yeah,
and it's also not a night game; it is a 3:30 kick.
yeah.
So I'm sure they'll get up, and that'll be a rowdy environment. They're gonna have to make it that to have a chance in this game, I think. But we'll
And,
see if that's enough.
and the really bad thing about the Kentucky game is it wasn't a shootout. Kentucky forced Ole Miss to play Kentucky ball,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and held them to 17 points. Now, since then, it looks like Ole Miss has become, like, at least on the offensive side of the ball, the lowest amount of points they've scored is 26, and that was in a lackadaisical win over Oklahoma, and then obviously they have the rout over Arkansas, putting up 63. So the offense seems to be coming alive at the right time, um, hosting Georgia, who, I don't know, whose defense seems to be coming alive at the right time. Um, and I mean, we've kind of seen this play out before. I'm pretty sure after it's all said and done, we'll end up playing Ole Miss 3 years in a row after next season. So, very
Yeah.
familiar teams. Not Hugh, good God, that was a flashback. Sorry.
Whoa.
Oh, whoa, man.
Whoa,
His bag
whoa.
is deep.
Mm-hmm.
Lane and Kirby obviously have a lot of familiarity with each other, being on the same staff, um, and just both being in the sport for a while. They've got a lot of tape on each other. Um, it'll be an interesting one. I think if history says anything, you got to kind of side with the dogs here. But I don't know. Out of like the three-headed monster that we had schedule wise, this was probably the one I was the least worried about. But now that it's here, it's like we could lose this game. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I
But
think, like you said, Drew, I think the big storyline here is whether you believe in the Georgia defense more or the Ole Miss offense more. I think
mm-hmm.
that's really what it boils down to at this point. Just with how, Ole Miss's defense, how they've been performing, Georgia's offensive woes. I think that's what it's going to look like, and we'll see. Obviously, Ole Miss is, what they are offensively. That's kind of their entire identity. And then Georgia's defense coming back around, getting some key pieces back. People who are getting healthy, and Kirby and Glenn Schumann scheming it up back there. So I think it'll be fun to watch. I mean, I'm biased as a Georgia fan. I'd like to lean that I believe in Georgia's defense more, but that Ole Miss offense is potent, and it's hard to overlook it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But we've also seen them stall out. So
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
especially in we got Dan Jackson back for a full game. That kid is a monster. Like,
Jamal
okay,
Aguero.
Mm-hmm.
see,
Good
like
football players.
the funny thing is, like, I feel like Dan Jackson used to be like a meme, and
He was.
now he is like the cornerstone of that defense, pretty much getting everybody
He's
lined up and
he's legitimately one of the best players on that defense,
He's the
and that's
best
not
back
no
there.
joke.
Yeah.
And I mean, he might not be, probably gets picked on from a lot of people. He's a white safety, right? He the way that he flies around the field, just knowing where to be and when to be there is impressive, and that comes with experience, which he has plenty of. But he is one of the biggest leaders in that entire defensive unit.
Yeah.
So to have him back, I don't think can be understated how important or overstated how important that is for that Georgia defense.
He is in every play.
It's true.
Like, not on
Every
the field.
play,
I mean,
yeah, every play
ball.
he's a part of, he is near or around where the play is being made for the most part. If he physically can't be.
Yeah.
So
other white guy, Chambliss. Chambliss is warming too.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think the game comes down to the trenches. I mean, Ole Miss is going to try to air the ball out, yeah, but if, and it's a football cliche, but it's true. Just whichever offensive line and defensive line controlled line of scrimmage, ultimately, that's who walks away. Like, especially, Georgia trying to get back to running the football the past few weeks. They've been very, very pass heavy, as we've kind of discussed, but been trying to get back to the run. And Ole Miss, even though Jackson Dart literally is 3,200 passing yards, you got to be able to keep the defense guessing. You can't throw it every time.
I mean, if Jalen Walker can have 5 sacks this game, that'd be amazing. I mean, Jackson Dart is arguably one of the most confident quarterbacks in college football. So if you can get him shaken up and get him second guessing himself, especially against our secondary, we can cause a lot of havoc, both on the front and back end. He could have a long day, but I feel like that's very easy to say. Like, oh, if this happens, then obviously this is going to happen. But like, what are the odds we get Jackson Dart that much? Not that high, but it'd be nice.
Yeah.
It'd be nice
because it would
those are like Brandon said. I mean, that's obviously the two strengths of each team are going up against each other. And then if Georgia's offense can click on all cylinders, if our defense can at least hold Ole Miss's offense to kind of a stalemate to where they're not scoring on every drive, but like they're still potent, they're still going to make plays. And then if our offense can click, I feel like Ole Miss's defense, especially in the back end, is a little full of holes. Hopefully Carson can pick them apart, get his mind right, and get back to where he was last year. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good matchup. I don't know if we want to pick this one. I think we might have all the same pick, so that might not even be worth anything. But and I would say cover the spread, but it's such a low spread. You win is probably going to be covering. So maybe we just won't. Maybe we'll leave it at that, huh? And our viewers, let us know in the comments if you think Ole Miss has what it takes to take down the Dogs this week. I think it comes down to what version of Georgia we see, and if we see the version of Georgia that came out against Texas, even with their offensive woes, if Georgia's firing on all cylinders, I find it hard to believe that they would get beat. So we'll see on that front. But moving on from the Dogs, I'm looking at the other matchups of the week. Obviously, I don't know if we want to touch on it now or later. There's Alabama, LSU. I don't know if there's any other matchups that are worth talking about, or if y'all are interested in talking about. Maybe we can touch on Vandy, South Carolina. That's a fun SEC one. Real quick, South Carolina travels to Nashville and is currently a 3.5-point favorite. There were rumblings in this recording earlier about that being one of the 3 locks of the week. So take that how you will, but Vanderbilt has played very, very well at home this season, taking down Alabama and taking Texas to the wire, losing by. They only lost by 3, right? Or 4 at home.
Carolina?
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
To Texas.
They lost by 3 to Texas.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And they
so
are in prime position to go tie that game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think it was 27-24.
Yep.
So Vanderbilt has shown they're dangerous at home, and Diego Pavia has been the man for the Commodores this season up until this point. South Carolina obviously coming off a huge win against Texas A&M at home, showing flexing their muscles, showing what they can do when they play well on both sides of the ball. We've talked about this a couple times already, but South Carolina is a very good 5-3 team. They're a few plays away from being 7-1. Really one true loss, and that Ole Miss game getting beat pretty good, but LSU and Alabama not going their way. So I personally think this game will be very good. I am of the mindset of that being my lock of the week is Vanderbilt being a 3.5-point dog in this game. I know South Carolina is coming off a great performance, but I don't know. There's something about the Commodores this year, man. I'm rocking with them. I really
We
am.
all just love
Yeah.
this line, I guess.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we do, and it's 100% going to come down to quarterback play. Like we alluded to earlier, if you've been watching the long form, when we talked about South Carolina's victory over Texas A&M, the Lenore Sellers had the game of his career. Um, not only through the air but also on the ground. And Diego Pavia didn't have his best game against Auburn, but that kind of makes me feel a little bit better that they didn't need him to have the game of his career to pull it out. Just hopefully he's able to have this extra week of rest and be mindful about that. There's no way he's not playing. Clark
Definitely not.
when asked about Diego, like, yeah, I don't know if I could keep him off the field even if I wanted to.
That's the leader right there.
Yeah. So I think this is definitely going to come down to who can control the pace of play more. I think if Vanderbilt can limit this game to just a couple of possessions that hopefully go in their favor, they should be able to take care of business. And then South Carolina the same way. I mean, South Carolina's front on the defensive side of the ball is ridiculous. They have an amazing pass rush. I don't know how much Vanderbilt's going to be throwing the ball, but just with like their spread triple option hybrid, I think that if defensive ends can get upfield and contain all of that motion and window dressing, it could get ugly. But um, yeah, I mean that's what they said about Texas too. So and Vanderbilt only lost that game by 3.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
Vandy be
be a
a
fun one.
force to be reckoned with. Yeah,
Yep.
and I will say, even if Pavia didn't have his best game, they went going into Jordan Hare. I don't care how good Auburn is as Vanderbilt, and getting out of there with the win is an accomplishment in and of itself. Obviously, a sign of the times, but that's something that's a big deal for Vanderbilt. And like I said, I
Yep.
don't care how good or bad Auburn is. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Already bowl eligible, like Drew said earlier in the video. The first week of November.
Yep.
So pretty crazy to think about for Vanderbilt. Quite the turnaround. Big fan of Clark Lee and what he's been doing. I know this has been a Vandy schlop fest, honestly, but yeah, honestly, that's what we're doing. We're doing tricks on it.
Hell yeah.
So
Hey, man.
let us know in the comment.
Ticket prices for this game. I remember the Alabama ticket prices were like $5, some bullshit like
Mhm.
that. Tickets as low as $96 this
Mm.
weekend. Vandy versus
Jeez.
South Carolina.
I mean,
So
it's going to be a good game.
it
That
will.
will be
Right?
a good game no matter
It will.
what. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. For
Um.
sure.
Say
Is
something
there?
nice about South Carolina to kind of counteract.
Okay.
Lenore Sellers
Yeah.
is good.
Lenore Sellers,
North
yeah.
Southern is good. They have one of the best. I think one of the best front sevens in the SEC.
Yeah.
Um,
All black
in my
uniforms are
opinion.
nice. I like those.
Yes. Yes. Um. So before I think we move, if I'm catching the vibe of this video correctly, before we move on to the game of the week, I would just like to point out a conference we haven't mentioned yet
Go for
is
it.
the Big 12.
Hmm.
There are 2 key games in the Big 12 this week. One really key, and then the other one's just kind of needs to, you know. But anyway, I'm gonna get right into it.
Go for it.
So as the standings are right now, Colorado and Iowa State are currently tied for second in the Big 12. And Iowa State just lost to Texas Tech, and Colorado plays Texas Tech this week. So if Colorado can beat Texas Tech, then that kind of covers the back door for that either second or
Tiebreaker.
third tiebreaker. It would force either the third or fourth tiebreaker, whichever one I'm referring to. But
Hmm.
if Iowa State loses this week, Colorado has nothing but green grass in front of them to make the Big 12 championship game, which I think is
Wow.
nuts. And I
No,
think
That's
that's impressive to
crazy.
say. With all
yeah,
the, everybody's like the dog pile on Colorado. Us even admittedly at some points.
That
But
was fun last year though. We got to
yeah.
shit on them at
Yeah.
every turn.
And yeah, but year one growing pains is expected. What they're doing this year is also is impressive for sure. Very sneaky. Haven't watched admittedly personally haven't watched that much Colorado football this season, but Dion getting them in this spot poised to make the Big 12 championship if they do what they need to do and have some things go their way is very impressive.
Yep.
And I'd like to give them their flowers for sure.
Yep. And yeah, no, I mean, now have they had to have a couple of things go their way, like Kansas State dropping 2 conference games? Absolutely, because Kansas State is Colorado's one conference loss. Um, However, I mean, and Iowa State dropping a game to Texas Tech was not on anybody's bingo card this past week, but it happened. So sometimes you just got to be there when chaos ensues to be able to benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
For
yeah,
sure.
they're a pretty sneaky 6-2 team with a shot to make the Big 12 championship game. But yes, I mean, I did make a TikTok about this earlier. But if Iowa State loses another game and Colorado wins out, then Colorado has nothing but green grass in front of them. If not, if they both win out, they don't play each other, so things could get hairy. Going down to level 3 or level 4 of the tiebreakers, and it'll be interesting. It'll be very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. But
Yeah.
I believe, yeah, because if Iowa State beats Kansas State, then Kansas State beat Colorado earlier in the season, so that would be like, oh, that's the tiebreaker. But if Colorado wins out, then they'll have the win over Texas Tech, who has the win over Kansas State.
Yeah.
So if as long as I've made that abundantly clear, the Big 12 could get very interesting. But yes, I am now ready to move on to the next one.
Let's do it. We will wrap it at the marquee matchup of the day. The Crimson Tide travel to LSU and face off in Death Valley. Alabama is currently a 2.5 point favorite in this matchup. And according to the FPI, a 69.8% chance to win this game. So it looks like the model is clearly favoring the Tide, even traveling to Death Valley.
Dibs, lock, dibs.
FPI loves Alabama and FPI loves Texas. I've noticed.
They like them a lot.
I made a TikTok today about the FPI, basically questioning the validity of any of it, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, who knows what they feed that algorithm, to be honest with you. I don't know what that model looks like. So I know probably a lot of advanced analytics go into that machine.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny because I listened to a podcast that is centered around gambling where one of the guys operates 95% of his bets off of the advanced analytics. And I'm listening to him, and then I go check out the FPI, and they hardly ever match up. I don't know what they're taking into
I don't know what they're
account.
looking at then, man. I don't know what they're looking at.
I don't know.
Makes no sense.
But
FBI doesn't know ball.
No ball. That's right. Obviously, huge game for both of these teams to keep their hopes alive. Alabama.
It's an elimination game.
It is an elimination game at this point in the season. Obviously, Alabama can't afford anything more in terms of losses. Already taken 2 SEC losses, so at this point they need to win out and they need help. And then LSU with their loss against Texas A&M last week. Not much room for error on either side of the ball here, but I do think being in Death Valley is a huge advantage, and there is a lot of film on the blueprint of stopping Jalen Milroe and the Alabama offense. And if you can do that, I don't think their defensive unit this year is nearly what it's been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, yeah, LSU. I feel like I don't know. I feel like LSU still might have a little bit more to play for here, just because they're not 100% in the driver's seat as far as making the conference championship game. They have become really big Texas fans as of late.
Yeah.
But and they've become huge Ole Miss fans and huge Texas fans, and then huge Georgia fans when they play Tennessee, because that's
Mhm.
pretty much what LSU needs to guarantee a spot in Atlanta. But I think now, if I'm if I'm in those locker rooms, I'm like, hey guys, we can't really control our own destiny when it comes to making the SEC championship game. So let's not focus on that. We're going to focus on winning this game, and then taking it one game at a time. If we can do that, we should have enough to get into the playoffs and potentially host a playoff game. Potentially,
Yeah.
I'm not saying they will, just because they have that disgusting loss against USC to open the season. But
Yeah.
So,
a,
I
a,
mean,
playoff game in Death Valley would be
exactly,
It would.
and even if they miss out on the SEC championship, we've been talking about it recently. That's not a death sentence. In some situations, it's honestly preferable um, to not have to play in that game. And then if you're in a position to get a home game, first round of the playoffs instead of that SEC championship, and probably play a team inferior to you who you would be facing in that SEC championship in your own backyard, you're going to be okay. So, or LSU with everything in front of them, even if they don't make the SEC championship. However, Alabama fighting for their lives here. Desperation mode for the Tide. 2 SEC losses. It's looking, like I said before, they need to win out and they need help. So this is where it starts for them. I know it's in Death Valley, but I will say we'll see what this Alabama team is made of, because obviously it's not a Nick Saban-led Alabama team anymore. But I think there's something to be said about this is truly an elimination game for them. And if they lose this, playoffs, kiss them goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty much out of the SEC race already. They're just fighting to stay alive.
I mean, both these teams kind of on the outside looking in, but I mean, TFP still in question. Like you said, Brandon, it's looking like basically an elimination game. I also think this is a legacy game for Garrett Nussmeier. So he's a junior, right? In big games, he's been very up and down. Inconsistent. I mean, against A&M, 50% completion, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. But I mean, he threw for 405 yards, but that's not good enough to get it done. Overtime win against Ole Miss, 43% completion, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's sloppy, but it's enough in some cases and not enough in others. I think this is the game that especially if he doesn't come back next year, which he would be kind of stupid to not come back next year. This is the kind of game that will begin to shape that legacy, like how he's viewed entering next season, because right now, I mean, we don't really know that much still, like he's got the tools, but just has not put it together. So I'm looking for him to step up in this one. Honestly, Alabama's secondary is fine. They're not world beaters by any means. So I'm curious to see what he'll bring.
Yeah, I think regardless of record or like what's at stake here, I mean, at the end of the day, this is also a rivalry game. I think it's taken a step back because Nick isn't on the sidelines anymore, and I think him being the active coach at Alabama definitely stoked the flames every time these two faced off. But I mean, there still is that history, and historically, this game has been for the driver's seat in the SEC West. But I mean, it'll be a fun one. LSU crowd will definitely be into it. 6:30 local time. And it'll be dark now thanks to daylight savings time ending. So it'll be raucous.
Yeah.
I'll
get
sure.
drunk right next to him. I'm riding in spirit, boys.
That's right.
I don't know if we want to do picks. I think we're all leaning LSU. That's the kind of the vibe that I get. Or does anybody want to step in and say they think Alabama's? I don't know. Do we want to pick spread, money line, game winner? I don't know what we want to do. What do y'all feel like?
My heart says Tigers.
Yeah, I feel Tigers. I mean, Harold Perkins still, is he hurt or is he playing? thought he got hurt, but I might have been dreaming.
Hypothetical.
I don't know. They've been doing some stupid bullshit where they were dropping him into coverage and like playing him more as a linebacker. Let him come off the edge and just terrorize opposing quarterbacks. Bless you.
see.
Thank you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's out.
let him chase Milrow around in circles.
I
But
thought I
Yeah,
did.
in spirit,
Yeah.
the ghost of Harold Perkins chasing around Milrow, maybe, but yeah, that's a tough blow. I guess I don't know ball. I don't know how long he's been out for, but obviously not great for
I
that
don't pay
LSU
attention to bottom
front seven.
feeders.
whoa.
Hey now,
Hey, yo.
I like the Tigers. Yeah, I like the Tigers. I think my heart says it. I'm not going to reconcile my heart with my brain right now.
No.
Because this is the thing is like in the past, my what I would hang my hat on is like, oh, you can't bet against Nick Saban most of the time, and this and this and that. He'll have them ready. They'll be disciplined, whatnot. DeBoer, different team, a lot less discipline. Still getting his feet underneath him. I think LSU gets a big home win and keeps their hopes alive. To be honest with y'all, so
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would bet it right now, but I don't know. I've been steered in the right way too many times to go off on my own. So I'm gonna wait until I can.
oh, smart man.
Yeah.
Do your due diligence.
Do my due diligence.
Not everything has to be a vibes pick.
No.
View the injury report.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Watch the
I'm
coach's
hoping.
presser.
Yeah, what's DeBoer wearing to this game? Is he gonna
Ooh.
wear a polo? Is he gonna wear a hoodie?
Honestly,
Is he not professional enough?
Walmart
What are we
if I'm-
doing?
If I'm DeBoer, one time I'm walking out in a 3-piece suit and a top hat. Just really
Just
throwing
to
off
say
the vibes.
a big
Just to
middle
see how you
finger to
fit.
everybody. Oh, I'm
Hey.
not professional enough. There you go.
Tuxedo.
Okay. He's tuxedo, like Step Brothers,
Yeah.
or he walks out wearing a houndstooth suit. Paying homage to the bear.
Yeah. Would be a power move for sure.
I would.
And then he loses, and then he has to retire on the spot.
He's got to burn it at midfield.
Yeah. Could you imagine him coming on the mic? All right, everybody, don't leave. I'm going to strip butt ass and burn this outfit because it obviously didn't work. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay,
No,
Brandon, timeout. All right, last bonus segment real quick. Did you see the videos at the Georgia-Florida game of the Jacksonville police beating up on the fans? Okay.
I saw the main one. I need to go rewatch the second one, but I saw the one where he was just getting wailed on, dude.
Absolutely.
It's insane.
You mean that wasn't Brandon in the video? That's crazy.
It could have been. We didn't see any faces.
You didn't see any faces. I can show you the back of my head and show you I don't have any bruises from baton whipping, but
it's not caved in.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
So Jacksonville Sheriff's Office had said they were going to review the footage and see if there was any disciplinary action to
Yeah.
yeah. 9 minutes ago, ESPN just put out a story. Jacksonville Sheriff's Office says police altercations with fans at Georgia-Florida game were, quote, within policy. So, using handcuffs as brass knuckles and giving somebody the people's elbow.
It was like 7 consecutive people. Yeah. So, for the only context I may be able to provide, and this is hearsay, so go do your own research. The brass knuckles handcuffs one, I don't really know as much about. That's pretty hilarious though. But the one where the two guys are just getting the shit kicked out of them, I heard that they were fighting each other, and the police came over, and then one of them may or may not have let his intrusive thoughts win and reach for the service weapon.
No way.
That is maybe what I heard. I don't know if that's true, but something along those lines of the police tried to intervene. Maybe somebody reached for a weapon or, did something to the police officer, and then they just get their asses kicked. So pretty intense. And, maybe that is the reasonable amount of force if that is the case, but Pretty crazy videos coming from the stands. Obviously, the drunkest college football game of the season, so people were rowdy. But I've never really seen anything like that at a Georgia-Florida game. So I think it's funny, their internal investigation obviously found no wrongdoing outside of their duties. It's just when videos like that surface, just people are getting wailed on. It's
You hardly expect.
It's pretty crazy to see. Yeah, usually it's fans fighting each other.
Yeah.
But no, I mean I think that sums up the Georgia-Florida atmosphere pretty well. It's a bunch of drunk people walking around in the same place talking shit to each other. So
I think that's as good of an explanation as any.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that about does it for everything. I know this was a long one, so if you stuck around on the long form this long, thank you for your viewership and support. It means a lot. And if you're here for the first time and new, please do feel free to subscribe, stick around, like the video. We have college football content all season long, both in these long form videos on YouTube, and then we do a lot on the short form side on YouTube Shorts if that's your preferred method. I know probably not a lot, so but I know we have a lot going on TikTok. That's where it's at. So if you're here from TikTok, it is murdering it. So if you're over here from TikTok, we appreciate you. Come and join the fun over here too. We talk a lot of ball and have fun with it. Let us know in the comments what you're most excited for this upcoming weekend and matchups. What your lock of the week would be. We're gonna have that later on short form, so keep an eye out on that if you want betting takes that may or may not be shitty. We don't have our total records tallied up, so you'll never know. But anyways, we appreciate you sticking around and hanging out, talking ball with us, and we'll see you in the next one.